I want to say good evening, good afternoon. It's good morning in some places to everyone. I hope everyone is feeling peachy blessed. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere by Martin Luther King Jr. Welcome to the Above the Noise talk show. It's a space where real stories meet real conversations. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Angie. I'm your co-host, your moderator. My partner in crime and sister cousin co-host is a little under the weather. She's Artemis, and I'm sending up prayers for my sister cousin. Okay, these are my rules of engagement. For my guest, if you have a question, please write it in the chat and I'll read your question. Or raise your hand on the react icon or raise your physical hand. Some people don't know how to do that with the react icon, so you can raise your physical hand. That's fine. Um, if you're putting it in the chat, or even if you're speaking, please if you have a comment or a question for a specific panelist, please say their name first, or in the chat, please put their name first, because I'll be reading it to my panelists. If you would like to comment on one of your other partners' question or answer, you're welcome to. I'd appreciate that. But please make sure you do the same thing. Hit your react button and raise your hand or raise your physical hand. I ask that everyone be respectful with your comments and questions. Please no hate comments or questions. To my audience, your comments are limited to 3 minutes. Um, the hate part, that part I realize I should not ever have to say that, but I do, just to be clear. Now that we have our house rules out of the way, let me introduce our distinguished panel. Will you raise your hand as I introduce you and tell me just a little bit about why you are a part of this book? Chris Bogart. Chris, you're the brainchild and the editor of this anthology. Silence is Concept. Silence is Consent, which is the topic of this discussion. Tell me a little about you and what made you do this.
Um, Lots of reasons made me do it. I taught for almost 40 years. And during that period of time, about a third of the kids I taught were Black. About a third of the kids I taught were immigrant families. And the third were white or Portuguese or Brazilian. Um, I I still keep in touch with a lot of these kids, and they mean a lot to me. And so I don't want to see anybody harassed. I want to tell you one other thing too. My father's family came over here in 1668 from Holland. My mother's family came over here in 1650 something, from England and Wales. And I'm telling you this for one reason and one reason only. And that's because I believe that everybody is welcome in this country. And if, and if the American Indians are the only people that can tell any of us to go home. So that's one of the reasons. The second reason is I have a Black son and an adopted son, and no one's going to harm him. So this isn't the country that I know, and I believe that because we're poets, we have to fight back. That's the reason why I wrote this book. Oh, I edited the book. Excuse me. Angie, you're on mute.
I muted everybody, then I made the mistake of muting myself. Okay. Um, Richard, tell me, Raise your hand so everybody see you. And tell me why why did you decide to be a part of this anthology?
Well, I know Chris Bogart from a variety of online readings, and he blackmailed me. So no, I'm sorry. I will make jokes. So sorry about that. I mean, it seemed like a natural thing to send work to. I've been writing for with intent for 45 years or more, and though some of my work, and I don't just write poetry, but I'm write a lot of poetry over the years, and um some of it people will look at and say, oh, this is political poetry of any sort. I can use that term broadly, but as far as I'm concerned, almost everything I write about is about re-examining what we think and know and believe, which I think is an essential part of politics. And it's sort of, I'm sort of saying something like that, everything is political, sort of comment, but I might be writing about what looks like a nature poem, and it might be a nature poem, but to me it also will have something to do with re-examining how what we are in this world and how we interact, and that's politics anyway. So but besides that, you know when people treat others in any way poorly, and I kind of mean on everywhere on that spectrum, my feathers get ruffled, and they get ruffled kind of easily. And so, and I'm a squeaky wheel. Actually, if you look at my Facebook page, that's what I say I do, squeaky wheel. So um, yeah, it was sort of a natural thing. My pieces in the book are strange. I don't know. I assume we'll be talking about them eventually. So, because I let Chris reprint some what I think are scary pieces from the perspective of a MAGA people, and which is not how I normally write. Maybe we'll talk about other pieces later, and I'll say more. But anyway, yeah. Chris had asked if he could include those.
You all
Uh,
will get an opportunity to read at least two of your poems.
mhm.
Um, Seretta, tell me what made you decide to be a part of this project?
Hello, Seretta Martin here. I met Christopher through online readings, especially those about Ukraine. And we both formed a friendship with each other due to the fact that um, we realize the importance of poets' voices in our society today. I think it's really a duty for all poets everywhere, um, and at all times to be that voice, that important voice that expresses things, sometimes things that other people feel but they are not able to express. And poetry is one of the best um, vehicles to do that. We can speak for the people who are powerless to do so, and raise our voices against the culture of silence.
Great. Um, I like that. Um, Susanna, you're up.
Thank you, Angetta. Thank you, Chris. I got involved with the project because Chris read one of my poems in resistance to what's going on and asked if I would uh, be part of the project. I have a long history. My father was in the Ministry of Defense in Budapest, and he collaborated with the Nazis. So I have a family karma that I have been trying to resolve in some way. I've written a series of poems from the points of view of Holocaust survivors who couldn't have come back. And as you're saying, Seretta, to give voice to, a person who never got a chance, though we have so many wonderful testimonies from survivors. So uh, I've taught in university, and I've been involved with poetry for over 64 years. My father said never be involved with Jews, blacks, and gays. And I don't go around noticing if you're Jewish, black, or gay, but it just so happened that at the very crux of all of my growth, there was somebody who was Jewish, black, and or gay. In one instance, I have all three in a friend. Uh, so, uh, so for me to be part of this is a matter of healing, and also I have explored how specifically poetry is crucial in bringing us back. So I do a lot of work with brain research, left brain, right brain, how these things show up with reactionaries, and how poetry is a vehicle for healing that. So I'm very, very grateful, Chris, for being able to be part of this project and this panel. And thank you, Anjetta.
Jason, I love this Brasswax.
Hi, folks. Thank you, Angie. Good to be with you. Good to be with all of you. I am Brasswax online and on stage, and I got involved with the project because I attended, I think it was late January, an online reading hosted by Collapse Press, at which Chris did a fantastic job promoting his call for submissions for this project. So I sent him some work. He was immediately responsive. He was wide open to my ideas, including my sort of non-traditionally conveyed poems in this case. We'll talk about them more often. But all three of those things I have found rare among editors, and I am a professional editor myself. So Chris and I hit it off, and by virtue of my immediate, or more or less immediate trust in him, I was interested from the get-go in being part of this project. And I appreciate both that and the opportunity today.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I am one of the poets in the book as well. And Chris and I were talking before one of the open mics started that I was hosting, and he was telling me about it. Then he sent me his manifest, and I had already written about 3 or 4 more poems already about the situation because I was annoyed and I had no one to talk to about it. The opinions are so different, and sometimes people get irritated when your opinions don't match theirs. I didn't have time to go through that, so I just wrote it. And I sent them to him, and I was so proud that I did because I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. And if any of you know anything about Birmingham in the 60s, it was known as Birmingham. And when I was 3, one of my playmates was killed in the 16th Street bombing. So yeah, it things have always touched me. But in the South, it's always you can't voice your opinion or you'll die. And so I have a way to voice my opinion and still be living. And to my guest, once again, please don't be shy. This is a discussion. It's meant to enlighten all of us. Everybody's opinion is important. The title about the book is Silence is Consent. And the book, it is about breaking the silence. It is an anthology filled with poems and poets from around the world, and they're speaking about the American conscious. The poems in this anthology are as diverse as the poets. And Amanda Gorman, she was being interviewed, and she stated that the reason that poetry has been around so long because it was a type language for them, for us, and that when we were in protest, you would always hear a metaphor from a poet. And not only that, whenever they feel like they've buried a poet, they don't understand that they've only planted a seed. And so I thought that was really great. Panelists, don't forget you have 5 minutes to discuss because we have several questions in a short time. I'm trying to work for you, Richard, as fast as I can. Chris, why do you feel that silence is consent was so important as a concept where poets are speaking out about what is going on in the country today. Why do you feel like it was so important to put this in writing? You muted.
All right, I'm good. Um, I'm going to be brief, but one of the things I want to say is the reason why I chose these four panelists is because in very distinct ways, this is not my book. This is the book of 83 poets, not just mine. And one good example is Anjie has poetry in the book. Susan Martin, who is an audience member today, has poetry in the book. And a lot of people do. And the reason why I wanted that, and I wanted the young and the old and a lot of different points of view, is because I believe that the crisis this country is going through today is one that affects all of us, some in many ways more than others. In one particular instance, at any event, you want me to answer the question, but the reason why everybody's here today is because Richard runs a website called Resources for Resistance, trying to help poets get their voice out. Brasswax literally takes his haiku and burns it into wood in order to be able to express himself. And I was more than happy to include that in the book. Seretta Martin on the West Coast, Susanna Rich on the East Coast, went out to not only a lot of their students, but a lot of their poet friends. And a whole lot of the people in this book are here because of them. So this is why I picked this panel. Now, there were others that contributed significantly but couldn't make today. But at any event, I wanted, when Trump was in the last time, I joined Indivisible, and I worked very hard with them. But it's been a number of years, and I've gotten 5 years older. And I can't drive at night anymore because of my vision, and so I can't do the things that I used to be able to do. But there was a fraternity brother of mine, when his father had a heart attack when we were still in school together. I called him up and I said, "How are you doing?" And the answer that he gave was one that I've lived by. He said, "My dad is Russian, and if you cut off his arms, he'll kick you to death with his feet." That's what I intend poets to do. This is not who we are. And it never will be who we are. So that's why I did the book.
I think it was a great concept. Poets have a duty to use their talent for greatness, and I think this is one way to do it. What uses do you see the book as having what uses do you see it being used in the current climate? Richard, we're going to start with you. How do you see this book being used? Do you think it's going to motivate? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I look at the book and the pieces in it, and it is the word that always comes to mind to me is strident. It's a strident book. It's got, power, and so I don't think that this is going to convince people who think otherwise to change their minds. On the other hand, you don't really convince people to change their minds. They lead up to something. They change their minds themselves, and that does happen. I keep seeing people on Instagram, for instance, are talking about, oh, I used to be MAGA, I used to be, I don't know, Christian nationalists and different things, and now I see the light, or however they put it. So what I think of this book as is kind of like similar to the marches that are going on, because it helps to create a sense that there are so many people, who are in this together. This in this case, it's poets, and I'll say more on that in a little bit when we get to that. But I think one of the things that the main uses is too is that it lets people know there's a lot of people who write poetry and write in general, are on a similar page. So to me, I think this is like another version of a march. It just happens to be in words. Does that make sense? I think that's what I think off the top of my head.
Makes a lot of sense. Susanna, what are your opinion? What's your
This book will not convince anybody who's a MAGA. But what it does is it provides strength and voice for those of us who are on this side of justice. And so it's really important to know I'm not alone. And so this book creates community. It also touches the heart. It's really possible under these kinds of situations to shut down and to know that somebody else is there feeling or articulating for me what I couldn't articulate for myself gives me heart and strength and courage. It also gives, by some of the poems, contextualize and reflect back on the past and on other countries. And so to say, oh, this kind of thing happened in 1863, and look, we did survive it. And so with that context, at least I have hope. And I think finally, this book hopefully gives us some hope, for community, for strength, and that by binding together, encouraging each other, we will go out for the marches. We will stand up in our communities. So poetry has that function. And one of the many things that happens is that doctrine and sound bites, the kinds of things that build cults, are all left brain ego aggression functions. What poetry does is what what Yeats said. He said that art is the fountain jetting from all the hopes, memories, and sensations of the body. Because, a MAGA knows what it's to be thirsty, just as I know what it is to be thirsty. So to come back to those universal human things is the gift that poetry does. So many of the poems in here bring us back to the body. Karen Ramos is, the lion toy, and so forth. And in my own poetry, I really strive to stay in the particular, because the particular is the political. So again, we're not going to left brain the MAGA people, because that's a left brain function. We're here to make ourselves whole, not only our left brain functions, but also the whole of us as bodies, as human bodies.
That's an awesome answer. Seretta, I don't think I didn't call on you yet, did I?
Excuse me, you called on me at the very
Oh.
beginning, but I do have some things I'd like to share on this topic, if I may.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you were up next for this particular question. I just wanted to make sure I didn't call you already.
Oh, sure. No, you didn't. Okay, I'd like to give you some quotes because I think quotes are very powerful. If more politicians knew poetry and more poets knew politics, I'm convinced the world would be a little better place in which to live. John F. Kennedy. All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. John Steinbeck. One of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Plato. So my main comment that pertains to what we're talking about is that poets have the ability to express their outrage and thoughts through their skillful imagination and the power of the poetic form, using tools and crafts, strong images, the senses, allusion, contrast, comparisons through metaphor and simile. It's different than news reporting. It's different than other things because it reaches the emotions. It reaches the feelings, which is one of the things that poetry does best. So I think that's one reason why these anthologies take everything a step further, like particularly this one, into a realm of catching people's emotions and feelings. And that's how we can speak to them as poets, where the rest of the world is not doing that.
So true. You can get, people will read one poem or two poems before they'll read a whole book.
Mhm.
That's how you can get them. You can tell them whatever you want in a poem because they're not going to read a book. Um, Brasswax.
Yes, thank you. I'll confess I'm kind of a bone deep contrarian by nature, not so much by intent. And frankly, I'm skeptical of the idea of poems having function per se. And let alone the function of changing anyone's minds as others have expressed. And so when I write and perform, and in this case publish, I'm far more interested in starting a conversation than I am in steering one or changing anyone's mind or anything like that. Which is why, at least in the case of my contributions to this anthology, they are intentionally nonpartisan. I haven't picked a winner for the White House since the last millennium. So I am not a partisan personality by nature. And this, again, I mean, I don't want to just like toot his horn all day, but this is part of why I enjoyed working with Chris too. I had issues with the title of the book. I had issues, I had concerns about the sort of stated intents of the book. But Chris was a fantastic listener and took those things into account, even when there may or may not have been time to make any kinds of changes. And it was that conversation, that partnership with an editor, which left me pleased and grateful to be a part of the project, even when I'm skeptical about like, some of these ideas, like poetry having function, for example. I would, again, I would be honored to know that anything I've written or performed has inspired someone. But I'm always much more interested in like, where can we take the conversation from here? Or can I add a perspective that is new, or at the very least, in this case, like nonpartisan, in a way that we can all expand each other's minds. I believe the function of argument should not be to win, but to walk away more informed about the opposition's perspective. And so that's kind of the framework in which I approach this labor of writing and performing, and the just sort of the goal, or kind of putting my biases out in front. I'm also a cis white male, able-bodied, with a documented citizen, which is to say, like, I'm going to be the last one probably that that the powers that be come after for anything that I say on the mic or on the page. And that I feel comes with a sense of responsibility. So all of those things kind of motivate how I feel I fit into this project.
Awesome. All of those are awesome reasons. Um, Gary, one of our guests says that throughout history, poetry has been the call to arms, the call to change. He is a poet from the UK, and the things reflect what is happening across the pond. It was Wadsworth poems that ignited the abolishment of slave trade. He also says that I think it's this Augusto Boal in Brazil changed the whole country through poetry. But at the same time, Hitler and Churchill and Mussolini were poets and they were great orators. But also Benjamin Franklin was a great lover of poetry. So true. Not only that, and it to me, I think one of the ways that our generation has not paid attention to poetry being an asset and able to get the word out is our newer generation is doing spoken word. And people like Tupac, his words were not, that was not rap. It was spoken word put to music. And that is one way I'm hearing a whole lot of other new coming singers. They're putting their poetry to music. And I think that's one of the ways that we can get to our newer generation because they believe anything that the singers say. And half those singers are not even gangsters. So I think that that's another way that we can use our poetry to get it out in the mainstream. Chris, this question is for you. Why do you think so many poets wanted to participate? A lot of them didn't even get a chance to put theirs in there because they submitted too late. Why do you think so many wanted to? Why did they respond to you?
You know, I don't know that I have an answer for that. The only thing, well, let me explain something really quick. First of all, the reason why I've never Casablanca Press never ever published anything except for this book to begin with. And the reason why I did it was because I found that there was such a demand for it. When I first started this, I kept on hearing people at these readings all over the country saying, I hope you don't get offended by this, but I have to say this. And I began to think, if a number of poets really have to speak out loud about this, why not give them a platform on which to stand when they do it? And I was getting 2 to 4 poets a day. My son will tell you, I was up to 3 or 4 in the morning answering letters, trying to get people, put into the book and the book just kept on growing and growing and growing. So it was kind of like, it was a bigger thing even than I had ever imagined it would be. And it humbles me to realize that I actually had a good enough idea that people thought was good enough to participate in. So I'm very glad about that. Once again, I say the same thing I've always said. I'm listed as the editor. I have 5 poems in that book, but there's 362 pages of everybody else's poetry. So this book is all of ours. It isn't just mine. Thank you.
How many copies have we sold as of today? And where do the proceeds go and why?
Well, first of all, we've sold about 225 copies, and they're not the mass copies. In other words, like that's not including somebody bought 20 copies in order to bring it to a demonstration or something. It has made so far over $850 for the ACLU. That's who I decided to gift it to. And the reason why is because I have a list of 5 organizations in the back of the book and their contact information. The Southern Poverty Law Center, Indivisible, Americans of Conscience, Democracy Docket, Mark Elias's Democracy Docket, and the ACLU. But the reason why I chose the ACLU is because, first of all, I didn't think I should profit from other people's work. So rather than try to spread it out among 83 people, I thought that the ACLU was the best. They always seem to be in the court since January. They're always there. They're there with the immigrants who are being deported illegally. They're all over the place. So I just felt they were the guys. So we've already given them about $850 worth of proceeds from this book. And hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, for those, there may be someone in the audience that does not know what the ACLU, what it is and what it does, what it does. Please explain.
The American Civil Liberties Union is a union that it always struck me that if you ever watched the Adams Chronicles in the 70s, one of the things that John Adams started his career as a lawyer with is he defended the British soldiers in court who had fired against colonials and killed a number of them, including Crispus Attucks, the first Black free man to die for the American Revolution. And it didn't help his career in the beginning, but he felt that everybody deserved his day in court. American Civil Liberties Union feels that too. And one of the things that I find really amazing about them is that I can't remember what the year was, but in Skokie, there was a group of Nazis, literally American Nazis, that marched through a Jewish Holocaust survivor town in Skokie. And it was in affront to the Jewish community who had gone through, all that loss during the Second World War. And yet the ACLU did very much what John Adams did. They felt everybody had the right to a defense, and they even defended them. So my feeling was I can't think of another group out there, not that isn't doing anything, but has done the enormity of the work that they've been doing.
Thanks, Chris. I wanted the audience to make sure that they understood that this was a nonprofit for us, but it was not only are the words in the book a call to action, but we're trying to send the book to people. I think you've sent some to is it Bruce Springsteen? Is that what?
Let me explain that really, really quickly. I can't give you the story because we'd be here forever. But I had an occasion to interact with Bruce Springsteen in the beginning of his career. And as a result of that, I'm preparing an archive of information to be given to the Monmouth University Springsteen Archive. That's where all of his memorabilia are going to be stored. I asked the woman, when she accepted the donation of archived material, I asked her, is there any way to get, because I've lost contact with him, 40 years ago, one of our books, because this guy is speaking out, and putting himself in danger because Trump on more than one occasion has threatened to have him investigated. So I wanted to get him the book to say, you're not alone. She said, I will hand deliver it.
Right. Gary says, don't forget the impact of Amanda Gorman at the Biden inauguration. It seems like she has a lot to say and a lot of the right people to hear it.
Can I just make a comment on that? If someone could get me, I've been looking around for an address or some way to get her a copy of this book, particularly since she's in the beginning of it. So if anybody can get to me with some way to get through, I'd be more than happy to send it out.
Okay. Richard, I know you have to go, so I'm bumping you all the way up to the top.
Go ahead.
I want you to explain the resources for resistance. Why was this set up, what it does, and what's its potential for the future? Okay, that's the first thing. When you get through explaining that, I want you to go ahead on and read your poems. And then after that, if you have to disappear, we've heard everything you have to say.
Well,
No, you haven't.
you'll never hear everything I have to say because it goes on quite a while. Well, thanks. I wanted to ask is how you pronounce your name. Is it Anjie or is it?
It's my birth name is Anjetta, Anjetta. Nobody can pronounce it. Nobody remembers it. So in order for me to keep from getting left behind, my nickname for my family is Angie.
Oh, Angie.
Angie. Yeah, it's Angie.
Okay, I was just curious. So Resource for Resistance, although you won't find that, I'm going to put a link in. Chris, I had a conversation with a bunch of people that a few months ago that Chris had initiated about things that we can do to pull poets together. So I'm going to back up a moment and say that I had started something else. It actually started right after the election. I'll tell the story quickly. Like about a week after the election in November, I was at a reading here in Oakland for Collapse Press, and it was a fairly disgruntled reading. Let me put it that way. And I had I'd chosen certain things, but in the middle of the reading, I suddenly decided to read a piece called New Pledge, which I'd written during a long time during the Iraq War, which was like a new pledge of allegiance to something that was important to me at the time that I felt like I could pledge allegiance to. And I'm not going to read it for you, but you can read it yourself in one of my links. So, and the crowd went wild, as we say. I was like, oh, okay, and I had a lot of feeling in it. And then I suddenly said, you know, if any of you want to write your own pledge of allegiance, your personal pledge of things that you feel allegiance to or something, then send it to me and I'll figure out a way to, get it out there. And I ended up starting a page, a website called ineedanewpledge.com. And I have 40 some poets that have written kind of beautiful things on it, new pledges. And I'm going to put a link in here so you can see, so you can look yourself sometime. So I had that website up and running by the beginning of the year. And it's still open. People can, and y'all want to send new pledges, there's a link right there in the chat. And so when Chris he was saying, do you think we could make a website where at least we could list readings that people could feel comfortable going to online? And I said, okay, well, I can put one together pretty easily attached to this website. So the address for Resource for Resistance is ineedanewpledge.com/resources, but you can just click on the link you see there. And that's mostly what it is at this point is a list of online readings for almost every day of the week they happen at least once a month, some of them weekly around the country, so that poets could writers could drop in and hear what other people are saying that they've never met before. And I always like that anyway. I love bringing people together, and so that's sort of what that page is for. And I'm happy to add any readings, any readings that people know about, that there are open readings online where people could sort of drop in and say, hi, I'm from blah blah blah, I'm from here, I never met you people, hi, how are you, and share work and ideas, to have a bigger network of sharing ideas through poetry and writing in general, through open readings. So that's what you find on that ineedanewpledge.com/resources is mostly open readings. There is also a section for the anthology and any kind of single events. There's a flyer for this event, for instance, on that page right now as well. So I just sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this right now. And so that's how I need a new pledge.com. I recommend looking at them because they're some of them are extremely inspiring, and lovely, I mean, they're not all politics. Some of them are pledging allegiance to the earth and to, I think there's one person pledges allegiance to her cats who she's allergic to, it's very heartfelt stuff, and that explores that idea. So, I hope that answers your question. Okay. And and I'll read a couple of the poems, but actually they're from the series that I actually wrote during Trump's first whatever you call it, junket around the country, 2017, 18. And I wrote 10 of them. And they were just, during the time I wrote a lot of stuff. I just had to get this anxiety out of me and onto the page. And so I started writing I consider them sort of satires of, those perspectives. And then I found I was afraid to read them at readings. I mean, they're all really short. They're like 30 seconds each. They're like 8 or 10 lines each. And I didn't read any of them because I was like, oh my God, if somebody walks in and hears me saying this, they're going to think I'm, Looney Tunes MAGA. Yeah, they're going to think I'm a red hat, So, and Chris asked to reprint, I can't remember, like 6 out of the 10 that he liked. The first one, I'll read 2 of them, but I think I'll read one that's not in. Can I do that, Chris? Read one that's not in the anthology, but I'll read the first one that is. That gets called MAGA Poem Number 1, The Idea About America. And to me, this is sort of like, each one of them is actually supposed to be a different person, but they also start out sounding kind of like an intelligent person, and they get dumber as they go along. Let's just put it that way. This one is The Idea About America. The idea about America is to make as much money as possible, as fast as possible, by doing as little as possible. That's it. That's the whole idea. Everything else is like a side thing. Everything else just happens. This is the only thing that happens on purpose. Everything else is just chum. And if we're only reading 2, I'll read another one that's not in here. Because I, like many people, are kind of shocked at the behavior of people who are, claiming to be Christians, but, treat other people with well, let's just say horrific actions. This is MAGA Poem Number 5, God Likes America. And by the way, I normally don't write like this, but that's another point. God likes America. If America was on Facebook, God would like us. How do I know? Because God likes me and I'm an American. I'm one of the good guys. I know what America is, and I'm going to keep it that way. We don't need none of those not American foods or cars or people or anything. And we sure don't need any of your not American opinions. Got some? Come over here and tell me. I'll stab you in the throat. That's the way God does things, and that's the way America does things. God likes America. So, like I say, satire. And those are actually from a book called Unit of Agency. That was the first book out by Collapse Press in a few years back. So those were written during the first Trump regime, and they're unfortunately a little too relevant today. And I'm glad that they're out there in this anthology, only because they're in this book that came out a few years ago, but I always sort of felt bad that I never put them out there before. So if anybody's interested, I think I have it right here. It doesn't matter too much, but put this link in there too. So did I miss something? Am I supposed to talk about something else? I forget.
No, you're good.
Sorry, I get so much going
I had
on
special,
today.
the rest of them are just like yours. They're specialty questions directed to specific people for specific reasons.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you, Anjie, for doing this. I'm very sorry I have to leave early. It was the best, I said that'd be an okay day for me, but I still end up juggling about 4 different things today. So
I'm glad that you were able to stop by. And like I said, you all get with Christopher and tell me if you feel like we need another panel discussion. I'm open. The floor is yours. It's your call.
will this be posted somewhere, by the way?
Okay, now look, I'm really, really green at this. I want you to understand.
That's
So,
fine.
what will end up happening, I would either put it in a Google Drive and
Mhm.
send you the link, which is probably going to be the safest way to do it without me destroying it. Or I'll email it to you directly.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I'd like to be able to see what I'm
Oh yeah,
missing.
I mean, I'm gonna make sure it gets out. I'm just a little green at this. I'm working on it, I promise. Yes, Chris.
All right, would you allow me, when you send me the link, to put it on my YouTube page
Sure,
so that it's accessible?
sure. I mean, all of you can put it on your YouTube page. I mean, that's what it doesn't really matter. Any show that I do, if somebody wants to put it on their page, that's how poets get their voice out there, is sharing it. You cannot make a difference if you keep it to yourself. So sure, all of you are welcome to it.
Well,
Make sure you cut out any of the craziness that I did or in the bloopers. Just make sure you do that before you post it.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. I'm just really glad to hear what you had to say, and I'm really apologize for having to duck out soon. But check out the resources for resistant page. Go to some online readings. I've been trying to catch all the ones that are listed on there, but I go to like I go to the Cobalt readings every week, almost every week. Then that's a weekly, and I go to the Collapse Press readings once a month, because those are all fine folk. But there are many fine folk, and I think maybe that's the main reason to do this is to meet more fine folks with words and brains and hearts. That sounds a little hippie, but I meant it.
Thank
So
you so much for
and
coming. I appreciate you.
maybe we'll put some other resources on there too, but you know,
I
open.
think you have my email address, because you were copied on one of them from Chris.
Mm-hmm.
That's for all of you. Feel free to email me any comments, concerns, and
Yeah, and if this gets posted to on YouTube or wherever, then I could always put a link on that page as well.
and
Open to suggestions for
I
things.
also would like to invite you all to join my Inspired Poetry group. I'll send you all links because that's enough. I have two um, groups that I was blessed with. I inherited, and I would love for you guys to be a part of it because you would be a welcome addition. So I'll send that out to you because I have your email address.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna duck out. Everybody have a wonderful something, whatever you.
you too.
Yeah.
Bye
Cheers.
bye. Um, Mr. Brasswax. I don't know if that's your real name or not, but it's cool as it can be. I love it.
Thank you.
Uh, I'm gonna do the same thing for you, not because I'm trying to get rid of you or anything, but I mean, this is your question. This is your specialty question, and the rest of the questions are specialty. Um, Jason, please explain the uniqueness of your contribution to the book, not only as a message, but as art. And when you finish, please read two of your poems.
Sure. So the word unique has a really specific meaning, and there are 8 billion of us on the planet. So I cannot confirm that no one else is writing haiku of the particular sort of sonic timbre that I aim for, and then burning them into pieces of wood for display, or in this case, publication. However, if anyone else is doing it, I haven't found that person yet. So I'll let unique stand for the moment. Again, I was grateful and fortunate to have these poems published in this book as intended to be presented, which is to say photographs of the visual works themselves. So there are two sets of themed haiku in the book. One is 3 visual pieces, one is 5. And I'm currently 2,000 miles from home without visual aids. So I think rather than read anything that's in the book, because it's really best seen with one's own eyes, and maybe that'll be an inducement to the audience here to go pick up the book. I would like, with your permission or consent, I guess that's the word, to read two other short related poems that I think would fit in this book. They just aren't the ones I have in the book. Would that work?
Mic is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I'm currently writing split sonnets, by which I mean 7-line poems, half the length of a normal sonnet, with a wink and a nod toward iambic pentameter. And so these are two of those. 1. Good luck finding a sentimental millennial at the semi-quincentennial. The house wins, of course, but you should be fine with that big stack of chips on your shoulder. How does one love a nation, anyway? Whatever. This too shall pass muster. DJ, take us eons deep, all in this together, maladjusted. 2. Life's a beach these days. The sharks largely ignore us in the waves. Everything's for sale. Dissolved salt saturates the breezy ease with being pleased that presses to be felt. Monkey see, monkey do, almost regardless. Stone grinds on, all awash in sticky grit. Even the bribes basking freely in the sun. Thank you.
Awesome. Those are awesome. Yes, Chris,
I'm sorry, Angie, but can I share screen?
of course.
This is what we're talking about.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so just to say a little something quick, this first set of 5, they're all pieces of wood cut into the shape of the lower 48 states, and the 17 syllables that comprise each haiku also depict a total of 50 stars in each of those 5 pieces.
I think you're going to hold the word unique for a very long time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I mean, honestly, like if we are not writing something that we believe is one of a kind, why bother?
This is true. My partner in crime, my sister cousin, she must be feeling better because she showed up, and I'm happy to see her because she knows she my ride or die. Let's see. Now, Susanna, the mic is yours. What role does satire play in getting the message across? And please explain how you got so many poets from the East Coast to participate. And as with the previous, you when you get through, read 2 of your poems.
Thank you. I did my master's thesis on humor. And humor is a very physical, and laughter is a very physical thing. It's when we laugh, it's rhythmic, repetitive, spasmodic expiration coming from the diaphragm, and it comes from the same part of the nervous system as sexuality. So if we can bring humor into something, we are bringing in generative, creative energy. What happens, I know, with these atrocities that are happening, and what it is meant to do is to shut us down so that we're not feeling, so that we're numb. We say, oh, it's okay, I'm just going to go off and do my own thing. What humor does is it brings our attention back and helps us to throw off, by laughing, that numbness. Henri Bergson talks about humor and says that laughter is what we do when we're trying to get people out of their ruts. And that makes a lot of sense. You know that that vaudeville routine, and slowly I turned. So when somebody is stuck in a rut, or I do self-humor, oh, there I go again. That also, so that laughter has the function of getting us out of our ruts. So what is dogma? What is cultism? What is political speak? It's being stuck. being stuck in your words being stuck in, make America great again. I mean, and so humor by its nature is meant to help us to get out of our ruts. So so that is a function, and I noticed that a number of the poets in here do use that. Parody is kind of a sister to satire. We have Co did some parodies of songs that we all know that I really appreciate. And so that is the function of humor. Also, when I'm doing humor, I am stepping out of my mind, right? I'm stepping out of my usual rut way of thinking about things. So, and as we all know, laughter is medicine. There's been a lot of research done on that. So I am very pleased that so many of the poets in here use a sense of humor. I really appreciate, Seretta, how you brought up some quotes by others. And one of the Graham Greene quotes that I often use is, "Hatred is a failure of imagination." And what is humor but looking at something from another point of view? So humor is very, very important. I was going to, I'd like to read Chris's poem, if you don't mind, as part of this. Is that okay with you, your grifter? Were you going to read it yourself? Is it okay?
Which one are you going to read?
The Statue of Liberty.
Oh, sure.
Is
Do
that
you want me to post it? Put it
Sure,
up so you can see it?
sure. And if I may, I'd love to give voice to it. I love it in my mouth. That's another thing about poetry. It's music, right? And music does things to our nervous systems. Here we go. So I will read it from my book. The Statue of Griftery. You see how and playfulness and imagination. These are all the ways that poetry brings us into wholeness. The Statue of Griftery. The new Onassis. Give me your greedy, your filthy rich, your mega mogul seeking life tax-free, your con artist, your masters of the golden grift. Send these, whose luggage sports the double G. Show me the gold, and I will be your rich. So I really appreciated how you worked with the Statue of Liberty. So if unless there's any questions for what I said, I would like to read two of my poems. One of them is humor, and the other one is humor, but again, poetry brings us back to the body. Morning after the election, and I hope you hear the word morning both as what happens at 6 o'clock a.m. and also grief. Morning after the election, sound bites and tallies scrambled by my comforter, unfit the fitting. This is my morning to grunt, tug, wrestle the mattress cover, to knuckle under the edges, fist the corners. I unfurl the top sheet, to complain like a mainsail in heavy wind, flap, collapse into wrinkles, mock my hopes. Tuck, tuck, everything tucked, folded onto itself. Pillows like blanked eyes, the shams, the sham. The blanket stretched hard for the quarter to bounce Washington's profile. Check my skill, my worth. I make my bed to take back yesterday. Last week, summer. Wrestle the whole cloth, hospital corners, quilted down, the too many threads, the threads. Punch the pillows, crawl back in, and pull the sheet over my face.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. All of these poems are so unique.
Thank you. And so this is a poem I wrote in 2021, and damn it, I'm sorry I hope that's not too strong a word. This is where the blank we are. And I'm hoping that you heard the word tucked as it was meant in my other poem. The White House needs a root canal. The dentist and assistant hover over me with riot masks and weapons, shots, squirts, lights. The drill whines, buzzes, jackhammers my tooth to skewer out the rot, the pulp, the nerve. The suspended TV drones, impending storms, fires, rising oceans, pans the impacted White House, its sandstone colonnades, the Capitol besieged anew. I pray, please ream out the infected pustule, the inflamed abscess threatening brain disease, the crown compromised by decay. Mouth dammed with surgical rubber, wedged open with bite blocks, filled with the dentist's fingers for 2 hours. I can't yell at the TV. Stop, go away now. Suction, flush, blow, drool chokes me as the president and his minions threaten us with deportations, loss of elections, campaigns against women and the Constitution, walls, walls, walls. Recrudescence, it's called, the return of something terrible after a reprieve. The dentist unblocks my mouth, turns off the blinding light, raises me upright. Rinse, he says, rinse. Oh, pearly white house, spit! Thank you for hearing.
Yes, you made your words come to life. That was awesome. I like the way you made them come to life. Because in poetry, the meaning is lost if it's not read correctly. Seretta, your question is, how do you see the use of imagery as a strength in the poetry, in the book? And how did you get so many poets in San Diego area to participate? And after that, I'd like to hear your poems. And Chris, be finding yours because you're after Seretta. You're muted. You're muted.
My mute was covered up by some kind of a recording message, so now I have it back again. I'd like to come at this a little differently because I've been sitting here thinking about one of the important aspects of what we're talking about in the anthology, and that's fear. The fear that we have in so many different ways right now. Fear for our country, fear for our fellow man, fear for our loss of rights, so many fears. And I want to step back a minute in history, way back to Thomas More, who was 1478 to 1535. And he was acknowledged, he did not acknowledge that the king was supreme. And therefore, through a chain of events, he was convicted of treason, and he stated it was false evidence, and he was executed. And his statement that he made is, "I die the king's good servant and God's first." So I think that what that brings about for me is the fact that we have a higher power that we believe in, whatever it may be, that is supreme. And there's no one man that can ever claim to be king or to be supreme. And to me, that's one of the important, all-encompassing messages in a lot of the poems that we're hearing in this book. So I just wanted to comment on that first. Now, as far as my question went on imagery, I think imagery is so important in poetry, where poets are able to paint visual and mental pictures and sensory experiences for the reader, making the poem more engaging and emotionally resonant. And by appealing to the senses, which we're all aware of, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and of course the imagery, allows the poet to convey ideas and emotions more effectively, and more so than abstract language. One of the things that poets start out with many times when they're first learning to write poetry is abstractions. And I try to explain to them that in order to make that abstract come to life, you need to balance it with figurative language and images and things that really make it come to life and resonate with the reader. So let me see, was there another part to that question? Oh, you're on mute too.
I was asking, how did you get so many people to
Okay.
participate in the San Diego area?
Okay, that's what I was thinking was the rest of it. I am blessed to teach two groups right now of poets. I used to teach California Poets in Schools, which is an organization that's probably 55 years old or older, where we go into the schools and teach children. But now at this stage, since the pandemic, I've been teaching adult classes at the Oasis Learning Center, which is nationwide now. It started out here in San Diego, but you can find it in other states now. And I am really blessed to have a group of people who are aware, educated, talented, astute adult poets. And they are always curious and anxious to know what's going on in the community and the world. And they were really motivated to be part of this anthology. Many of them have very strong feelings about our country and the current president. And each of them, I think, has a powerful voice that they can contribute in not only in this anthology, but in other ones as well. And because some of them are on Zoom, they're from all over the country. I have someone from Connecticut, I have someone from Maryland, I have people who are way up north in California. The Oasis Everywhere allows people to join a group no matter where they're from. So it allows for more diversity in a lot of different ways.
That sounds interesting.
It is. It's very
Very
interesting.
interesting.
I learn from them, they learn from me, and we all entertain each other and support each other. Once in a while, somebody will cry or laugh, or it becomes. I like to say that in some ways, our poetry community some of them become closer than family because they understand us in a way that our family may not. They hear the inner workings of our heart and our mind through our
Mhm.
poetry. And family members, some of them may say, poetry, I don't understand it, and they just leave it at that. So that's why one of the reasons why it's so important to me to have poetry in my life and to teach it. So I'd like to read my one long poem. I don't know. I don't think I need to read the haiku ones, but it's up to you. I'll just read the one that's Demon Ak Rasi. It's hyphenated. Demon hyphenate Ak hyphenate Racy. And one of the things that you'll notice in this is that it has allusions to animals and images such as concertina wire, allusion to the killing fields, not meant as just one war, but as many wars, and allusion to the Holy Land battles that are going on. And so there's a lot going on in this poem. I didn't even realize what all was going on in it until I wrote it. But it starts with the epigraph. There is responsibility in this time of chaos. Hear the primal scream that's coming from America. Do something. Governor Tim Walz. Hellhounds drool, lapping up the lies of the orange ack. Demons lurk, invade our nightmares. Festering fiends drive Teslas of greed through concertina-wired streets. Don't dare to speak against the orange ock. For fear, armed wagons, manned by drafted sons and brothers, will roll down the streets night and day, herding protesters away to the killing fields, to Guantanamo Bay. Children cry for their mothers, fathers fall in the years-long yellow and blue war, the never-ending Holy Land battles over land and sea, where a white field of smoke haze hangs, a blue star versus stripes of black, white, green, a blood arrow wedged between. Where is our God, any God? Have almighty lies driven him away? Listen, do you hear the primal scream coming from America, coming from the core of this once hopeful land, where our red, white, and blue that once proudly waved is now stained with cunning lies. In the Orange Ox Oval Office, hellhounds sit scratching their golden fleas as they seize and disembowel democracy, methodically digesting our America. Do something, do it now.
Awesome. Awesome. I
Thank
like
you.
that. I like that. That was very powerful. Chris, you have the mic.
First of all, the reason why that I suggested those questions for these two college professors is because one of Susanna's poems, the one that got me originally interested, was January 20th, St. Sebastian Day, which really was a takeoff on how St. Sebastian was shot with a ton of arrows, and we're being given pretty much the same treatment. And Seretta Martin, the poem she just read is loaded with imagery. And that's the reason why I felt it was a good question to ask. So thanks to both of you ladies for not disappointing. Thank you. I want to say one other thing too, that I got into an argument with a whole school reform representative when I was still teaching in the high school. And it was over, she said, students don't like poetry and teachers don't know how to teach it. So why don't we just start the curriculum, just keep poetry out of the curriculum? So I said, well, all right, I'm doing the English literature curriculum. So you want me to start in the late 1600s? She said, well, no. There's a rich history of American literature that goes all the way back to Beowulf, I said, which is a poem. And she said, well, what about Chaucer? And I said, also a poem. And she said, well, Shakespeare, I said, poetry. We've been telling our stories, the Iliad, the Odyssey, Gilgamesh. We've been telling them for centuries in poetry. So it only is fitting to me that it's poets that speak. I want to also bring up this. This is a book I wrote in the first Trump presidency. It's called Breakpoint. And I'd like to read you two poems from this, and probably the easiest way to do it is so you can see them, is to put them up here. The first one is where I got the idea for the title to the book. It's called The Price of Silence. In the end, we would be remembered not by the words of our enemies, but by the silence of our friends. Silence is sometimes defined as the absence of sound, but silence is really the absence of action. Silence, however, is always profound. It punctuates, communicates, sometimes in pages, most often in volumes. Silence counts its victims not in hundreds or thousands, but in hundreds of thousands, in millions. Silence has forever been complicit in the silencing of the voices of millions of souls in Uganda, Rwanda, in Cambodia, Armenia, in Auschwitz, in Dachau, in Bergen-Belsen, and in Baba Yar. Silence is cowardice. Its lips sealed as our most basic freedoms are held hostage to the absence of protest, the absence of action, the absence of sound. Silence is all of these, but most of all, for all of these, silence is consent. And the other one I want to read is, and I apologize for it being a little bit long, but I'll try to get through it quickly, because you had asked me in the beginning why I did this book, and I did this book for us, all of us. From the very beginning, this is who we were. This is what we were. This was who we have always been. This is us. From the very beginning, San Miguel de Guadalupe founded it first, a European settlement in the state of Georgia, and made Spanish the first non-native language spoken in North America. This is who we are. Over 300 years ago, Filipinos founded fishing sites in the bayous of Louisiana. Philadelphia merchants signed a pact to fight the tyranny of the Stamp Act, risking life and reputation. Jewish colonial Matthias Bush was the first person to sign. Crispus Attucks, an escaped black slave, was shot by the British on Boston Commons. He was the first free man to give his life in the struggle for America's independence. Yusuf Ben Ali and Bombit Mohammed donned colonial blue and fought side by side with their Christian neighbors in defense of their new homeland. Aaron Solomon stood shoulder to shoulder with recruits of the Gloucester Volunteers facing smoke and fire at Bunker Hill. Francis Salvatore, a Sephardic Jew, rolled out on horseback to raise the alarm. He gave his life to keep his neighbors safe. Thomas Jefferson studied the Arabic language from his own copy of the Quran. He was the first president to host an iftar to mark the end of Ramadan. His Quran is still in use today. Henry Blair was the first Black inventor to get multiple patents for his many inventions. Yet he could not write his own name. He signed with an X. Chinese laborers in sweltering heat laid mile after mile of hot metal rail for America's transcontinental railway. This is who we are. Martin Luther King led a movement that resulted in the passage of the Civil Rights Act, ending institutional segregation. Dr. Luis Alvarez won a Nobel Prize for his work with subatomic particles, microwave beacons, landing protocols for airplanes, and a theory of dinosaur extinction. Dr. Mario Molina won his Nobel Prize for his research in CFCs and the threat they pose to the ozone layer. The world's first patent for a color television was given to Guillermo Gonzalez, a naturalized citizen from Mexico. The estimated number of migrant workers toiling in the fields of California today is about 2 million souls. This is who we have always been. 6,000 Muslims, 60,000 Asians, and 64,000 green card soldiers born in poverty in Central America serve in our military's uniforms today to protect the freedoms we all enjoy as citizens of the US of A. This is us. Thank you. You're on mute.
Kind of glad I was muted right then because I was having a few little technical difficulties and I had technical difficulties containing my words. Okay, my first one is called, I wrote this because it was so much going on and I could not figure out how to get people to understand that when we were doing this last election, it was just jacked up, wasn't done right. It was just, it was like you knew there was nobody else running when there was several women running for president and nobody knew it. So I wrote this one. It's called Wake Up Radio. This is WAKE, Wake Up Radio, coming to you from the deepest depth of your gray matter. This is Wake Up Radio, nudging you to wake up your mind, wake up your consciousness, stop sleepwalking. The world is in an exceptionally distressful state. Time is of the essence. Implosion is inevitable. Wake up. Can't you see? Lies are flying around like trash in the wind. Deceit is running rampant. The magicians are hard at work with their sleight of hand. The illusionists are using their technical, mental, suggestive methods. Smoke and mirrors are everywhere. Wake up your senses. The government is the Antichrist. The politicians are the magicians using smoke and mirrors everywhere. The media are the illusionists with their suggestive measures. They make you believe what they want. The media is the Antichrist. Wake up. The Antichrist is knocking at your brain's door. Everyone must wake up. This is Wake Up Radio, signing off. Brain necrosis has set in. Wake Up Radio, fading to black. In peace. My next one, I wrote this. I wrote part of this in church, believe it or not. It was because something the pastor was saying. It was about the felons, how they had no right to vote. And I wrote this. It's called The Felons Are Running the Country. And both of those are in the book. They brand us felons for any offense. We lose our right to vote. We lose our voice. Tennessee's Constitution still condones slavery. Commit a crime, punishment, slavery. Work release, free labor, slavery, no voice. Yet, in the halls that are marbled with power, being a felon has a voice. Being a felon can run the land, yet we have no voice. Past mistakes take our power. Past mistakes take our right. Past mistakes take our second chances. Past mistakes take our voice. For the powers that be, past mistakes takes no freedom from them. Past mistakes, a freedom may be. But the halls of presidency looming high, we have no voice. Without a voice, there is no power. Without a voice, we're invisible. How can a felon be a president, but felons can't vote? A felon can be a president locked up, but can't vote. How can our country have a felon for president, but felons can't vote? How can our country be run from the penitentiary, but felons in the pen can't vote? How can we take back our voice? Our voice is freedom. Our voice is power. Non-felons must be the voice. We must all have the power to vote. If felons can be the president, a felon must have the power to vote. In peace. I was really irritated when I wrote that one. And not sure, I didn't think it would ever get published anywhere because I felt like it was really radical, but I'm glad you published it. And before we go, I would like to thank everyone for coming out, especially our guests, Susan, Sylvia, Amber. Amber's my daughter. She's also my ride or die. She does hair. I do poetry. We kind of complement each other. And my sister cousin Artemis, she's also my co-host. She wasn't feeling well, but she still showed up to give her cousin um a a boost. And yes, we call each other sister cousins because um, we're actually cousins. Our dads are brothers, but she lost her sister. I don't have a sister, so we're sister cousins. Um, my final comment, are there any final comments before I close out? Okay, Chris.
I just want to say one thing. I've been watching for the last hour and a half as poets listen to poets, and all I could see was nodding heads. This is why this book, because this is our way of speaking to each other and to the rest of the world. And I thank everybody who was a part of it. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for doing this today.
Like I said, you all get together. If you feel like we need another one, that's fine. I'm happy. And my sister cousin says thank you to all of those who came, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. My partner, yes, Chris.
Can I ask you one thing after everybody goes?
Sure.
All
Okay.
right, thanks.
Oh, and by the way, y'all, if it had not been for Chris, those questions would never have been as good. He helped me out greatly because he knew you guys. So he kind of sent me the questions to ask, and I was so happy to do them. I just kind of arranged them like I wanted. So you all give hats out to Chris because he made this possible. Because I literally was going, not sure what I'm supposed to ask and how I'm going to ask this. Although it was my idea to do it now, mind you. I wanted to do it, didn't know how I was going to do it. That always got me in trouble growing up, too. Our final words are: the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort or convenience, but where he stands at the time of challenge and controversy. The true naval will risk his position, his prestige, and even his life for the welfare of others. That's Martin Luther King Jr. I hope that this discussion brought out a lot of light. I hope our guests really enjoyed it. And I want everybody to learn that a voice does not necessarily have to be in writing. It can be verbal, and even in slavery times with the hair, that's where the cornrows came from. They would weave different subjects. They would weave paths. That's how they communicated, was in their hair. So yes, my darling daughter, you do have a voice. Can anybody tell I have a loud voice with all my colors? Um, I want to thank everybody, and you all have a good rest of the day. Thanks, guys, for coming out.
Thank you. This was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Rita, my
Thank you,
panel
everyone.
mate, and for
I
everybody who
thoroughly
came.
enjoyed you guys. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
got to do this again.
Thank you, Artemis, too. And thank you that you were able to make it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Feel better.
Thank you.
Chris, do you want the panelists to stay to the end?
I don't, it's up to you. Well, what I want to do is, since you're here, what I want to do is, the only thing that's keeping me from doing these readings every month, where not panel discussions, but more,
Reading.
reading from the book as well as stuff you've written after the book. Because after I saw those 226 Venezuelans frog marched out of the country and into El Salvador, I ended up writing a poem, and I said, oh, I wish I had put this in the book. I've been writing poems. We all have been doing that. So I would like maybe a platform, maybe once, possibly even twice a month, where we
Can work
just,
that.
I'm sorry?
I can work that.
So
The
what,
platforms are mine now. I can kind of do what I want. So, yeah, we can work. We'll get together and we'll work on that. And I think that's a good thing. Because I have a couple of open mics, and I can even add an open mic or change the way an open mic is done. So, just like Above the Noise is a show, true enough, but it's usually done in the middle of the week. But I changed it because I know a lot of you work or you have other things to do. And then for those that's in another country, it is actually Sunday there. And so I had to figure out a way. I do have to play with the time zones sometimes to get everybody here because we have people from the UK. Sylvia, she's in Singapore. So yes, I'm glad we're all here. Artemis, she's in Alabama. She's in Birmingham. We grew up together. We're both from Birmingham. She's in Birmingham. I'm from Birmingham. So yeah. So let's get together. We can Christopher, if you want to do a Zoom or video call, if all of us want to get together and work out the details, like I said, I'm open. Um, if you all have a good idea, I'm open. Like I told you, I'm green and I'm learning.
I had another idea, not even a suggestion, just an idea that I'm throwing out. A lot of publications are strictly online now,
Hmm.
and that would be another approach because it's so much easier to do it that way. It's more like a blog, and you just keep
That's what
adding.
Artemis and I are putting together our blog. One of the last things Raw wanted was a newsletter.
Mhm.
And I had only gotten the cover and everything done, the front done and everything before we lost him. So we're struggling trying to keep his legacy and then do our own at the same time. So we're doing a blog. And so as with everything else, I'm new. So so is she. She's in the process of finishing up her book. And so we're kind of juggling. So tell me what you want in the blog, how you want the blog done. I'm open. I'm clueless. I'm open. I mean, I'm not clueless to writing. I'm just clueless as to how you want it set up. I mean, if you have a great idea, come talk to me. I'm good. Because right now, my blog is a blank page and I'm just sitting there looking at it.
I'm thinking that one of the things would be to look at some existing publications that are already online, just to get an idea of how they're approaching it. There's one that I just heard of that is only in its second, I think they're working on their third volume. It's called Souls, Souls, Poetry and Art or magazine or something of that sort. And as far as I know, there's just one woman doing it now, so it's a lot of work. But you could make it as big or as small a project as you wanted it to be.
I just got an email this morning that one of my poems was published in a magazine, and I'll send you guys the link so you can see it. And
Okay,
not
good.
only that, I'm on the cover of a magazine that is published out of the Philippines, and I got to be in a part of the festival there. My poem is in on display in one of their festivals. So I've been really trying to come up with interesting ways to do poetry. Um, this might sound bad, but I'm kind of tired of open mics because it doesn't really show our talent. And I think there are more ways to show our talent. I'm just kind of trying to figure them out.
I do
you know
better
what?
if I can see it on the screen as well as hearing it read. So that would require a screen sharing, which is a little bit different than just an open mic. And
But I'll tell you one thing though about open mics. a lot of poets won't show up to listen to other poets if they can't also read themselves. I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed that a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
And right, that's why, and the killing part is, I went out and I looked at how many people had registered and how many didn't come. And then, like you said, if it's not about them, they don't come, which, and
I
I try to be on everybody that invite me, even if, like, I got one at 6 o'clock today, even though um I'm on mine, still try to support others. It's not always reciprocated like that. They don't always come back and give it back. But as long as I do my part, some person I'm responsible for.
but
But if y'all
see,
have ideas, please let's figure out how to put them together.
I almost understand though the people who will come to open mics like that because very much like what we talked about, we wanted to be heard. That's
Mhm.
why this book was so important. I think
Mhm.
everybody wants to be heard.
Mhm.
And that, you know, I mean, and some people are, I just ran into this poet. He lives up in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and his name is Brandon Deal. And he's 25 years old and his hair's down to here. And but and he's also autistic, but yet he writes such great tongue-in-cheek poetry, you know, but he's clueless as to how to get it out. He goes to very few venues, and I'm this close to saying, I'll work with you on a book, buddy, but you got to get your stuff out, you know? But
I
again,
love to have him on my show. That's the thing.
good.
That's
Can
the
I
thing
talk
that
to
I
him
am
about
so proud of, is that when I first started and when I first did my first book, well, my only book, I didn't have anybody. I didn't know anybody. And so I did everything myself because I didn't have the money. I knew how to put it together. I knew how to edit it because I did all of that at work. So I bought me a really good printer. I bought me some really good paper. I wrote it, edited, printed, and I knew how to, I wanted my book spiral bound because I wanted my book to be able to be really used. I wanted to be flexible. I bought me a good binding machine and I bound my books. I
it?
did like the back in the day rappers, how they sold the stuff out of their trunk because they wanted to kill the middleman. That was me. And so mine was mostly word of mouth. I didn't have a website, and I didn't put it up through um, Amazon because I didn't like how it was set up. Because the first, I think, 9 weeks, you can't sell it, you can't do anything. And if your book is not getting a whole lot of sales, then it gets kicked to the back. I didn't like that. So I just figured I could sell it just as good as they could. And so I was selling it through Square. And that way I
I
did
need to get going. I have company coming.
have
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was selling it through my Square because Square has an online, it has a website, you can put it up, and that way I didn't have to worry about anybody's card being breached or anything. So I have the opportunity to help as many people as I possibly can, and that's what I'm using this platform for. So I have a show called In Celebration, and that's when I like I'm gonna do with you. That's when I talk about your books. That's when I really, it's kind of like a mini book launch. That's what I do. So the two of you actually could do yours together if you feel like he would be more comfortable with you since he knows you.
Who?
You're the guy
Oh,
you,
oh yeah, I barely know him.
oh,
I
okay.
mean, I've only become Facebook friends with him a few weeks ago, but I guess because he's young, but he also has his friends, including a lot of really good poets from throughout the country. So that,
I would love to showcase them because I've been trying to come up with a I happened to run across something while I had written, and he wanted to do a cultural fest, a poetry cultural fest. And so I've been sitting down writing notes trying to figure out how to do that because I don't really know a lot of people as poets. So that would work. If you could help me with that, that could work because we have poets from everywhere, Greece, everywhere. And what I would like to do is even after with their poetry to tell us something about their culture.
hmm
And so,
let me talk to him, and
okay,
I will. And as far as the other thing goes, let me also. Why don't we do a Zoom like you and I did once before, where we can do what we're doing right now?
okay.
And just let me know when you have the time to do it. Do you know how to get a hold of me other than email? Yeah, you do, because you got my telephone number in, and I've got yours.
And I'm going to send you this because I kind of forgot to turn